It's finally here, the Bojack Horseman after show on AFTERBUZZ TV. We're so excited to recap it, so don't go anywhere.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Take it down. Let's go. These are the real beatboxers here, okay? Come on, Robin. I know you have it in you. There you go. There you go. All right, Andrew's just going off right now.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, guys. Welcome to AFTERBUZZ TV, Bojack Horseman After Show. We're talking about episode 1 of season 3, Spreading the News. I mean, how happy are you to be here right now? I love this show, and I was like, we need to, like, I'm so happy it's on this network right now.
I love the show. It's
so jazzed.
Absolutely my sense of humor.
Yeah,
so
right?
dark, but really funny.
Yeah.
So stark and real and brutal and honest and awesome.
It's so flawed, which is why we love it.
Yeah.
And this season, which I can't believe it's already season 3 in a way. You know, it's like how far they went, and it's actually got picked up.
Oh, that's that. I'm sorry.
That always does me every single time. And it got picked up for season 4.
Already?
Yeah.
So we already know.
So we already know, which is going to be amazing.
We'll see you for season 4, America / world.
Yeah, right.
Internet.
Whoever is on the internet.
All of you.
You trolls, too. We love you, though.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on this season as compared to the first 2 seasons? Do you think it was a lot darker? Do you think it was more mellow? What were your...
As far as just the beginning of this first episode?
Yes, because we only watched the first 2 episodes.
Of course. We're only talking... we're just talking about the first couple episodes.
Yeah, from your first take, what would you think?
Oh, man, from the beginning of episode 1, I mean, I feel like we're kind of par for the course, because we left off on a real dark note, as we kind of do at the end of each season. And when we got into the kind of meat of the episode, the first episode, I felt like it was just kind of that same tone that we've come to expect of Bojack, kind of dark and cynic and sarcastic and quirky. It's cheeky. Cheeky is a good word. Yeah, let's go cheeky.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I'm actually excited to see how he reacts to this newfound fame.
I know.
Because that's the biggest change this season. And I mean... the tone of the actual show hasn't necessarily changed as much from the first and second season.
Right.
It's just the situation that he finds himself in.
Yeah, that's really true. We've seen Bojack kind of fall, get up so many times. And this is such a portrayal of people who actually are in depression. Not only people who are washed-up actors or, you know, they play so many references to whatever happens in Hollywood and overall. But it's interesting to really kind of get in the mind of somebody who is having a hard time choosing happiness or finding happiness within himself. So that's interesting to see Bojack's journey. So we start off with something I totally related to because we work in Hollywood. So this show definitely pertains to us in that way. It'd be interesting to kind of hear someone's viewpoint of someone who doesn't work in Hollywood, if they really can kind of catch on to those little examples they do a lot. But the opening is when Bojack was on a press interviews. I remember doing that to so many actors, and I'm like, oh my God, I hope I'm not asking the same questions. Which is true, because I get that a lot.
Junket situation where they're just like, well, how do you feel? What's it like?
Right, what's it like playing Seabiscuit? I don't know, ask
Tobey Maguire.
Tobey Maguire.
Because, I mean, like, you try to find the answer to, like, these different projects, and you also try to be innovative with the questions that you ask, but then it's so hard because you still need those, you know, general answers to things. Yeah. Because they're there to promote something for a reason. You know?
Exactly. And it's typical Bojack for him not to really care about these interviews at all.
Yeah, and as they go along, you see he's deeper and deeper in those bottles of whiskey until he's got like 3 full bottles sitting on their sides.
Yeah. And there's also international outlets too, which I love. Because there's so many, like, we see interviews out right now, like international outlets interviewing all those actors and stuff. So it was interesting to see people from Finland and Australia.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
And what do you think of this character, Anna? I can't even pronounce her last name.
Spanakopita.
Anna
Spanakopita.
Oscar Whisperer.
Oh yeah. Gosh, Angela Bassett, right?
Yep.
Oh, she's amazing.
She is, right?
Angela, I love you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love her. She's my new favorite character of the season. She's definitely the most interesting. I feel like she's terrifying and nuanced and kind of dark and interesting. Obviously, there's like a story to her and where she came from and what she's about. All we really know is her name. She's kind of just basically one of those people that are like, this person, Anna Spanakopita. And they say the name in such a way where they're like, oh, well, tell me more. So I'm kind of interested. They got me with the tell me more. So now I'm ready to be told more.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see her storyline throughout.
Yeah, and she's a great actress no matter what.
She is. I heard she's so sweet on set too.
Oh, interesting.
So they're like, I think the creator of the show was like, if you ever want to work with Angela Bassett, do it. Like, you will not regret it. You know.
That's so interesting because I feel like she's just such an intense personality in a lot of the projects that she takes on. So, I mean, same with this still. Like, I completely see that.
I would kill to be in the room when they're all together doing a voiceover.
Oh, I know.
I would kill to be there to see
I feel
what
like
they.
to
listen to the readings.
Laughing,
I know, and they don't stop laughing either. Imagine them being so straight faced and saying these like ridiculous lines sometimes.
They're such,
How many takes they have to do?
Yeah.
Oh, they're such amazing puns.
Man.
Yeah.
Side note, I used to work at a management company, and Will Arnett kind of moved his production company into that office. So I would see Will Arnett walk in every single day, and I was like, I love you. I love Bojack Horseman. And he had a huge Bojack Horseman in his office.
Oh, nice.
A picture. It was sick.
I was gonna say, is it a cardboard cutout?
Not the cardboard cutout, a picture.
Okay.
But it was hilarious. I kind of wanted to just go in there, hear him talk, like his voice. He's perfect for this character too.
Oh, absolutely, because there's like a raspy like tone to his voice, really, you know, and it works so well with BoJack Horseman because like sometimes when he's conveying him being tired, it's like the perfect.
Yeah, there's an exhaustion that rings so true and so fragile. Just so it just gets you. Just gets
It just gets you.
At least me. It gets me.
And then we see them in New York, and we kind of see all the introduction of the characters, which they did in obviously a funny way because they're in the hotel room, and Todd just jumps out of a suitcase.
Oh yeah, because BoJack just leaves around what was it, like NyQuil mixed with vodka or something in the milk. And Todd drank some because he just wanted some cereal.
And he ends up in the suitcase. And
the comment though, like, oh, but that happens in Hollywood often.
Right? Yeah. She's like, oh yeah, but a lot of people in Hollywood smuggle young boys in their hotel rooms.
Not a big deal.
Another reference to something that probably does happen. We would never know, but
We would never know.
But I love it how they showed the scene in the airport, and the scene of Todd just goes through the security, but shampoo.
Yeah.
Shut this down.
Todd, fine. Gun, fine. Shampoo,
Right.
shut it down.
Shut it down.
Yeah.
And then we get a conference call of Anna, Diane, Bojack, Princess Caroline, and Peanut Butter, Mr. Peanut Butter.
Yes.
In a meeting. We also get a lot of, in these 2 episodes that we're talking about, Princess Caroline's backstory and her.
And her budding relationship,
involvement.
with Bojack especially.
Yeah, so we see her kind of like struggling in a way to kind of keep up this new company that she has, because when we last seen, she left that agency. And
now she's doing Vim.
Now she's doing Vim. I wonder why Vim came from. Judah, voiced by Diedrich Bader.
I love him so much.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
He's interesting. He's a savior for Princess Caroline. At first I thought he would like sabotage her, but he seems like to be on her side.
He does. He has that weird monotonous quality where you're like, I don't think you are on anyone's side. I think you're on your own side. But it kind of turns out he's on everyone's side. He is the ultimate neutrality.
Yeah.
It's great.
When they were on the call, do you guys remember anything that Mr. Peanut Butter just like...
Oh, I wrote down, I just loved that when they mentioned they were in New York, Mr. Peanut Butter was like, oh, that's the greatest place for salsa.
I wrote that down too. He's like, oh, I love the way they make their salsa in New York.
I love their salsa in New York.
Really? Salsa?
Mr. Peanut Butter.
Out of all things. And then he said something about how, like, has
Golden
the word
retrievers.
dyke... Yeah, right.
Trying to
Has
take
the word dyke been
back the
reclaimed
word.
yet? That was hilarious. Like these one-liners and these little... Also, the sets that they do. When we talk about episode 2, there's the flashback scene, and we get so many of those, like... references from, so we'll talk about that too, but it's so subtle and so hidden. I think the creator even talked about, like, will people even catch this? But they actually found out, yes, those subtle things are actually what people are talking about.
What we love.
Well, we absolutely love, exactly. And then Todd gets lost in the hallway. That was like him the whole
as soon as he takes a step into the hallway, he is
he has
lost.
to get the ice. He's like, damn it.
Just the most
What do you guys like or maybe
Shining-esque.
dislike about Todd?
As a character? Yeah.
As a character,
I mean,
yeah.
I like Todd because he seems like so childlike and naive and natural. There's this kind of, he's the best of us in a way, So when he gets disappointed, it's extra confounding and extra hard to deal with. And I think he's more of like a little brother or a son character to Bojack. So I think that is one of the main reasons he keeps him around, because there's this just definite sense of like this innocence that maybe he either feels like he lost or maybe he never had. And so he kind of, I feel like, wants to protect Todd in a way. Maybe he's not great at it, but I think that's a deep part of their relationship.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if you think about it, if the show didn't have Todd,
right.
I mean, it would be so much heavier and everything. And I just love how, yeah, like you said, his childlike innocence, really, honestly, just how he gets mesmerized by certain things. I love him. Yeah. Absolutely love him. He's a sweetheart.
Yeah,
he's Bojack Horseman's sweetheart.
He is. I see Aaron Paul in him so, like, when I'm watching Todd, I'm literally watching Aaron Paul, like, that voice. Like, I imagine him to be like, bitch, at some point in the whole show, which I'm sure Aaron Paul is sick of hearing, but...
Since we're kind of jumping around, but we're talking about Todd specifically, I think it's really interesting. We have that scene in the second episode where Todd is in the 7 Minutes in Heaven with the girl, and he just doesn't seem into it. And there's just this moment, and I just think it's so fascinating that they have a male character who is, by all rights, like, fairly masculine. He wants to, like, you know, do car things and make weird gadgets, and like he does masculinity is not really, like, he's not missing any. It just feels like he doesn't have, like, a sexuality towards anyone, or maybe you know what I mean. It's,
I mean, it's the first time they would experiment with that character if he were to be asexual,
right? Because he never has a girlfriend in the first 2 seasons, or
and
really
he made that
romantic
admission that
interest.
he had never kissed anyone before, you know, and that really spoke to his character.
Yeah, when we talk about the second episode, even there's a flashback of him and Emily about to, you know, have sex. So, and he wasn't so sure about it. He had to. He questioned, like, do I even want this? Like, is this something I'm even focusing on?
Yeah, it turned into kind of farcical, like, oh, maybe I need to be not here kind of situation.
And I like that. It's like none of these characters in the show are defined by race or their sexuality. In fact, it's just more about their life decisions and their choices. So it's a new type of show. I mean, this show has braked so many grounds, which is one of the reasons why we love it, why we're here talking about it.
It braked all the grounds, guys.
Yeah. Is that supposed to be a pun? I don't know.
Totally.
Totally was. Yeah, it totally was.
Yeah.
And then we get to this next scene of Mr. Peanut Butter talking to J.D. Salinger and... I forgot
the penguin agent.
The penguin, yeah.
Played by Patton Oswalt.
Yes. And the show, Hollywood Celebrities, what do they know? Do they know things? Let's find out. Perfect name for a game show.
The best show.
Got canceled.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, J.D. Salinger, he decided it was over.
Well, he adapted it to a new type of show, right?
Yeah.
I think
no. He was just like, I've told my story.
Yeah.
That's it. Which is amazing for a game show. It's just like, no. The story of Hollywood stars and celebrities. What do they know? Do they know things? Let's find out.
Yeah, they can't know anymore.
Over. There's enough. We found out. We found out if they know things. Great.
And that kind of prompts Princess Caroline, to call Mr. Peanut Butter.
Princess Carolyn?
Yeah, isn't it Carolyn? I keep saying Caroline.
Yeah,
I'm like, wait, that doesn't sound right.
Pretty upset with you.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. She would never represent me.
Princess Carolyn.
Princess Caroline.
A million we're sorries.
It would totally be a cat fight.
But
thank you for correcting me, because I was like, am I saying that right? I totally am not.
No worries. We're a team here, you guys.
We totally are. And she calls Mr. Peanut Butter and is like, no, like, get your ass up and working. And he decides to approach his accountant, who, poor guy, was trying to spend time with his son.
Oh gosh, and that moment where he's like, oh, don't listen to the song, the Harry Chapin song, Cats in the Cradle. I'm gonna listen to it. Oh, it's the most it's the most intense song about an absentee father. If you guys don't know, spoilies, look it up.
And he thinks of this amazing idea to, why not? Because they were just thinking, like, you know, what if Todd were here? What would he say? Oh, maybe something about spaghetti strainers.
He's so pretentious about it. He's like, spaghetti strainers.
Right? And then Mr. Peanut Butter, being the friendly dog he is, always
Sweet
down
doof.
for whatever and saying yes to everything, decides to buy a lot of spaghetti strainers. And
just fills the house.
Yeah, I feel like it's just going to be there, and we won't really, who knows where that will go in this season, but we'll see if that has a pivotal role. If he decides to make a show about strainers, will that really be the launch of his career? Because right now he's kind of like, Mr. Peanut Butter's, he's in a similar situation as Bojack in a way, where he's not necessarily washed up, but it's not like he's doing much with his career either, but he's taking a really different approach to it. Do you guys?
He seems like, I mean, if you think about what Mr. Peanut Butter does, he seems like he's a host more than anything, because he does.
Yes.
He's done the same things that Bojack has done. He did like another show in a similar fashion. He kind of like a John Stamos or a that kind of guy.
Right.
Yeah.
So now, I guess John Stamos. He's like John Stamos. I think maybe he's John Stamos.
Yeah, I mean, Bojack's
like a handsome, like older celebrity who can kind of just appear on things.
Yeah, do whatever.
Do whatever he wants.
I feel like he's so opposite Well, in some respects, to Bojack Horseman, because he is very aggressive with a lot of different business ventures.
Yeah,
and yet you saw kind of in the second episode of Bojack Horseman where Bojack, he was very hesitant to do anything outside of horsing around. You know, and it took a lot just for Princess Carolyn to convince him to take on the second show.
Yeah, she says it's been 11 years that he's been out of work when they flashback 2007. Which I just want to say, this is the first time I've ever seen a flashback to that 2000s.
The creators also talked about that too, and we'll get into that. I want to talk more about that flashback scene. You make a good point. Bojack Horseman even admitted how he just kind of is afraid of failure. So that's kind of another thing we saw him opening up more about this season, and just coming to terms about what really satisfies him. And then we get this. Oh, what were you going to say?
Oh, no. I was just going to agree. He talks about his kind of self-sabotage and how he kind of...
definitely.
As soon as they say it's going to be as big as Horse and Round, there's this look on his face. He's like, oh, that's not what I want. I have to make this not happen.
Yeah, that was in the next episode. Yeah. I just want to confuse the fans, but if
no.
If
I think that was
confused.
in 2. Sorry.
No. You don't worry. It's it's hard. We were talking about 2 episodes. Like they're kind of like really, relating to one another.
We expect you guys to be doing your homework.
Yeah, taking notes. I love this scene too with this Jill Pale character, the tarantula, and she's actually voiced by Mara Wilson.
Oh, Mara
Wilson, the Matilda actress, and Mrs. Doubtfire, of course, you all know her. Great representation of a typical artsy New Yorker. Like the stuff that she was saying, like, I want you to be covered in milk for your next project.
I love the mechanics of her like spider powers in this world, and she's able to spider down her strings for the what's it called, the marionette. Like in the middle, one breaks, and she's able to like redo it mid action. It's crazy. It's super interesting. I wonder if she like really could be Spider-Man, or if it's just like shy of those powers.
Yeah, I know. I love watching her hands. Even when she was like pouring the milk in her coffee, and how she asked for an omelet that the chef would make from his heart.
Would whisper his dreams into. And this doesn't taste like his whispered dreams.
Yeah, this does not taste like his dreams.
Does not taste his dreams.
I love that line.
Yeah, it's really good.
She even talked about, even Bojack made this line, like, I'm not interested in being rebirthed. I'm already trying to get over the first birth.
Yeah, being born the first time.
They do come across a great conversation, though, about... Bojack's like, no, it's not time for that. I want to create a legacy, and I want to make a name for myself winning this Oscar. And then she's like, well, then what? Then what? And he goes,
what's next?
Yeah, I don't know. What's next? And that's that kind of brings me to the next scene where they are at the top of the rooftop at this swanky New York bar, looking all good, and he's interviewing with the matinee fair, right? Manatee fair.
Yeah. Manatee.
There we go. It's supposed to be a pun on vanity. But it's manatee.
Yeah.
Manatee
fair.
And she even asks him, like, what's next, Bojack? And he's like, why does there always have to be a next? Yeah. And it's, like, funny because we ask, as an interviewer myself, like, the question that I don't know, I naturally I ask too, is like, well, what's your next project? It's like, well, why do you have to always read the next one? Let me just focus on this one. Like, I feel like I'm going to refrain myself from asking that now. I didn't even realize, like, the effect it could have. Because people, like, if you were asked, like, hey, like, Robin, like, what's next for your life? Like, I don't know. I'm trying to just graduate school.
I guess on Saturday I'm going to go to the movies.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So
it's a confounding question.
Yeah, Bojack, I feel like he's afraid to kind of crush under the pressure of his own success. And so I can't even imagine. I mean... Honestly, though, you know.
And then they get drinks, and Anna leaves. She's like, all right, I'll leave you to it. And it ends up in the hotel room, and they're having animalistic sex.
She's like, are you more
animals?
Let's be animals in our natural habitats.
Oh, God.
And then Diane, I don't know why I keep calling her Diane. She's Anna. She overhears the conversation, and she also overhears... them talking about a boat, like she references a boat or something.
Yeah, she says something. She's like, "Let me come on your boat. I'm a mermaid."
And that
ruins it. I mean, I'm sure.
Yeah, apparently that
ruined it for you guys.
yeah, that vision. Apparently, she compared herself to a mermaid for some reason. They get confused. People
well,
get confused.
sailors used to think that manatees were mermaids.
I mean, if you really if you squint at a manatee, you know, maybe.
Let's be real, you guys. That manatee, though. Hashtag not believing it. No? Okay.
No, I like it.
No,
like it. And then it just triggers a memory that we left off from season 2.
Yeah, New Mexico. Penny, right?
Penny Pingleton, I believe. was the name.
What a great last name.
Isn't it?
If it's Pingleton,
I hope it's
then
Pingleton.
I love it.
I think I
If
read
it's
that it was
not,
Pingleton.
that's fine.
I'm going to brush up on my names because right now I'm like totally, my mouth's all over the place. Yeah, about when literally he kind of had a really unfortunate situation with an old flame's daughter. So it was,
Right.
It does destroy a person.
I mean, that moment in the episode really touches this really deep, dark thing in him where he believes that he's done something so dark and so wrong that he doesn't believe that there's redemption for him. And he kind of admits that to this woman because he's, number one, drunk, but number two, because he has his guard completely down, and he has that moment of like impotence with her where he's like, I don't, this is not sexy to me. Sex is not happening now.
Yeah, I mean, he even admitted that his whole movie Secretariat is CGI.
Right. Yeah.
And you do not tell a journalist that.
No, and it turns out her tape is running, of course.
Oh, God.
I want to know how
what?
Diane saved the situation.
Anna?
Anna.
Spanakopita.
Why
We're going to hold...
is she a Diane to me, though? Like, when I look at her, I see her face in my mind, but I keep wanting to call her Diane.
It's okay. We'll make flashcards.
I think it's a deeper meaning in my head that I'll figure out, and I'll tell you guys next time. But, well, because, you know, in a way, Anna was his savior in the first 2 seasons. Not savior, but somebody who... Did I say Anna?
Yeah.
Oh,
Are you talking about Diane
no,
now?
I was talking about Diane.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
Diane
I'm twisted.
was Bojack's savior
In the first 2 seasons, and they had a little small fling, and who knows, maybe these two
Kind
characters
of.
might have a small fling.
It was kind of a it was like a non-thing,
subtle.
though.
It's subtle.
I think it was very one-sided
Right.
almost. I mean,
Yeah,
there was
it
a
was.
little bit of tension
Because
from
I have to honestly,
Diane's side.
yeah, I have to honestly say that I feel like one of my favorite things about the first couple seasons is that there is this impetus that Bojack wants to be with almost every woman he meets, but he doesn't get that with Diane because Diane is with Mr. Peanut Butter, and there's a great moment in season 2 where Bojack's like, oh yeah, because we're married and we talk about it. Of course I know. Like, did you think you had a secret from me? Like, of course not. We're married and in love and we talk. And it's just this moment of like, these are real people who are like having a real marriage, which is so interesting and great especially for the dynamics of this show. So,
Right.
Yeah.
No, you make a good point. You make a good point, but I definitely do want to see how Anna handles the situation.
Oh my God. I mean, I want to know.
I don't know if we. Hopefully, we will.
She says she's handled it, right?
Yeah, and we don't.
What does that mean?
What does that mean, right?
What does that mean?
She's powerful, man.
And she's so dark.
Like, I want her as a publicist if I'm
think
ever at that point.
That was the moment when I actually started paying attention to Anna as a character, because before then, I don't know, I just kind of saw her as being that, like, another harsh publicist, honestly. I thought she was going to come and go.
You make such a good point. I want to touch upon this too because publicists are known to be aggressive
Ruthless,
and definitely ruthless. Like, it's like, do they even have a heart? But she said one thing to Bojack before he walked into the advanced screening. And he's like, I was actually kind of relieved that maybe this might all go down the drain. And maybe I don't want an Oscar after all. And she's like, Bojack, obviously an Oscar's not going to solve all your problems. It's not going to make you happy forever. But for that one night, that one good night, you deserve that.
You deserve one really good night, and I wrote that down too.
That's when you really see a more humane side to Anna. Anna!
And also just
Diane!
The moment that Bojack hears that too is just so devastating,
Yes.
I think, because he's like, that's all I need, that's one moment, and I can maybe be happy. Because he's chasing this like dragon of happiness, like it's so close but so far constantly. Every time he thinks this is what I need to be happy, and he's constantly disappointed.
Something that stuck with me in some of the earlier seasons, his mom said this. They were just on the phone, and she said, Bojack, you're never going to be happy.
Oh, God.
You're a product of both, your dad and I, and so you were just born broken.
Yeah.
And then she talks about crosswords after, and she's like, so who's
Wendy
the director
Malick.
of this movie?
Right.
Yeah.
And that totally does speak to a lot of unfortunate situations about just being raised in a household that doesn't have the support and the love that you would think you would get from parents. And it can mess up a child.
Yeah.
It can lead them towards a different path. Not all situations, I'm saying, but for the most part, I really think that the way you were brought up, and the sanity that you have from childhood affects you in the long run. So unfortunately, Bojack didn't even have a good parental life.
Not at all. I mean, he was conditioned to believe that if he became famous and did all of these things to prove his mom and like his dad right or wrong, that he would have some sort of purpose.
Yeah.
But even then, like, he hasn't found that happiness that he's been longing for in his childhood.
Right. And that kind of leads me to the last point in this episode before we move on to episode 2. We did see a scene that was so quick, which people may not remember going forward, but I think it might be important. When Todd's just like out the window, he's totally lost, and there's a bird, like a well-dressed bird.
I wrote this down too.
And she's like, "Can you quiet, kid? Like I'm trying to commit suicide here." Jumps off the window. Oh shit! I forgot I could fly. And goes back up.
So in this world, birds physically cannot commit suicide, even if they want to.
Even if they want to, no
Yeah,
matter
they
how
can't.
many. Yeah.
No matter how hard they try, they're just instinct kicks in and they're flying.
But it's interesting because it's like, yeah, obviously.
flight, yeah.
But it's interesting because, I don't know, Bojack can also see himself that way. It seems like he just is going down this rabbit hole, but he can also fly too. We can all fly,
Yeah.
metaphorically. So
For
I
a low,
think
low
that
price
might...
on airninja.com.
Air
YouTube.
Ninja? Who
No?
uses Air
Okay.
Ninja?
I don't know.
I don't trust that airline. That's an airline.
It might not be.
Yeah, it could be.
Right. Bojack Air? Bojack Air.
So yeah, just remember that.
Fly the Bojack way.
Okay, let's go to episode 2.
Yes.
Welcome to this sunny morning. It's 2007. Of course, all radio announcers say that in the morning.
Yeah.
Going back to what you were saying earlier, wow. Usually we think of flashbacks from the 50s or the 60s, but we're hitting a
Or the
time.
80s even.
Oh yeah, the 80s. We're hitting, or even the 90s. But we're hitting a time where mid 2000s are actually a flashback. And I think this is the first show even the creators talked about that they might have hit that point because this was right before iPhones. There was a scene when Princess Carolyn was driving and there was like a flip phone sign, there was a Britney Spears, there was an Umbrella Ella store.
Oh, that's
I had to
amazing.
pause that and write all that down.
Do you remember the reference that I forgot which character made this, but they were talking about Katy Perry's first song, "I Kissed a Girl."
Merv!
Oh, yeah.
She kissed a girl and she
And
liked it.
liked
She
I
liked
gotta
it.
eat it. I gotta see this.
You gotta tell me more. Yeah,
There you
he
go.
was so gross. Yeah.
He was a little
Marv.
Marv. I wish
Marv.
his name was Merv because it rhymes with perv, but he was definitely a
Hi.
weirdo.
Yeah.
And we wake up to, not we wake up, but Caroline and Bojack wake up.
Carolyn.
Yeah, you see? What's wrong with me today?
It's okay. We're here to annoyingly correct you.
But please be as annoying as you'd like.
You
Yeah,
got it.
Carolyn and Bojack in the early stages of the relationship because we
Right.
know they've always had an on and off thing going on.
Yeah, and one of the first things they say is that they're not a thing. They
Right.
just have that conversation. They're like, "We're not a thing, though, right? Right?"
God, it's that friends with benefits.
right,
thing,
and you get this clear
Agent
sense
with
that
benefits, yeah.
right, and you get this really clear sense, especially from Princess Carolyn, but really from both of them, that neither of them are happy with that. That they're both kind of protecting themselves. They're
Yeah.
like, "You don't want to fall in love with me, right? Loving me is a terrible idea, right? Yes, great, I was right. Good. We can skip the whole falling in love thing."
Yeah.
And it's just this. It's just really sad and honest, and it's like, I see why they've been struggling with this for so long.
Yeah. And we even see her transition at the end of this episode when she's like, I'm not wasting the next 7 years of my life harping on this idea that
Falling
we could
in
be
and out of
something.
love,
Yeah, which we
yeah.
probably won't ever be. So that was also kind of, it's a sad thing because I think a lot of relationships, it speaks to a lot of relationships, I think. I mean, sometimes I wonder at this point, I don't want to bring it back to me, but I think a lot of people can, a lot of people can relate to that concept of you hit a certain age and you're just like, if I'm not in this to really win it, there's no point in me wasting each other's time.
It's like that time where you have to kind of get serious a little bit with the people that you date.
Yeah,
It's-
growing up, it sucks. Don't try it. And then I think Bojack also made a reference like to the HD DVD player.
He's got a new HD DVD to play in my DVD player.
And then we also see Todd and Emily,
That's
and
right.
she's like,
Oh, God.
I don't know, she
Yeah.
says redonkulous. Yeah.
Redonkulous,
I love
which I
that.
do recall from mid 2000s.
And I had to rewatch it too because I think there was she mentioned something about like a text message. She's like, "What does this colon in parentheses
Oh, yeah.
mean? You
She's
mean
like,
a happy face?
that's a
smile?
winky face
A
or
winky
whatever, yeah.
face?"
Right before emojis even became a thing.
Right, exactly. It was the start of that kind of texting and using those symbols. So it's
think
cute
this
to
was
see
the
their interaction.
First episode where listening to Emily's character, I finally realized that it's Abby from.
Abby
City,
Jacobson.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
haven't seen that
City.
show, but it's her.
Yeah,
It's good. You should watch it.
I should watch it. Okay.
that's great. Yeah,
Okay.
We'll talk about that
All
more
right,
later.
then. That's the after show of Bojack Horseman.
Right.
And yeah, they're on their skateboards, and then we also see. I love this. We see Jessica Biel and Mr. Peanut Butter
Yeah,
together.
he's previously married
His
to Jessica
second
Biel.
and his final wife.
Yeah, my
Jessica
second and final
Biel
wife.
actually called the creators, and she's like, "I want you to go darker with my with my character. Like, it's not mean enough. Go meaner. Go meaner. And they were actually pretty meaner. Like, meaner. They were actually pretty harsh on her character. Like, with... Who is she really?
Yeah.
Oh, the Seventh Heaven actress who went nude.
Her entire resume. She was like, I was in Stealth, I did this,
Yeah,
I did that.
all of the bad movies, though. It's great. I'm in a really great political movie called Now Pronounce You Truck and Larry.
It's about gay activism.
That's
one of the
exactly what that movie's
Jessicas.
about. Oh, so good.
Deal with it.
Yeah, there's so many of those. Oh my God, you talk like that about yourself? Jessica.
I love that.
And the Justin
character.
references, I love.
Right?
Yeah. He's like, you seem like
I
you're
met
pretty
this
in
new-
sync with this Justin character. Oh,
Man,
Paul
these
F. Tompkins,
these
if you watch this
one-liners.
show, come on this show because we
that
love
would
you.
be a dream come true to get any one of those actors.
Come make some puns with us.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
right. So that was interesting to also see the early stages of Mr. Peanut Butter. He was wearing like this like punk rock shirt.
Yeah, he's like Ed Hardy,
Was it? Yeah,
basically,
Ed
kind
Hardy, 'cause that was big
adjacent
around that
thing.
time.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Those were on Jersey
and he's-
Shore-ish.
His hat.
Yeah, and his hat, and he was taking on all these roles, and Jessica was like, "What exactly are you doing?" And he's like, "I don't know." Like he starts thinking he's like this new actor in Hollywood of this new figure, and he just wants to take on every opportunity. So he's always been really upbeat, like we talked about with his character. But we might see some darker parts of him. Who knows? But then we also see what's her name, Blarn / Diane.
Yes, this is Diane.
This is Diane.
Yep.
Blarn.
Yeah.
With the blue
what
hair.
a great name, Blarn. And then she has these
What a perfect
obnoxious
fit for her, though.
friends.
Working at a coffee shop, it's a typical journalistic / writer, career.
Totally. It's pretentious enough for her, like, as a character, to be like, yeah, I worked at a coffee shop, but to pay the bills,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we could talk about that now because then she ends up getting a letter from the New Yorker, and she's so
an
excited.
open letter
and
to open letters.
It's a rejection letter.
Yeah, and she's thrilled by the rejection. It means that someone took the time to read it, to like reply, and even said, "Oh, it should merit," right? So there's this whole long process where you get to see her family life and what it's like when she tries to call with that tiny success to her family, and the way that they don't really understand that, which I think is beautiful too, because anyone who does anything creative, and tries to share any kind of small success, it always seems very small to the eyes of outside observers. They're like, "Oh, okay, that's cool."
Cool. I mean, I have a question. Like, do you think actually trying to make it as a writer that is a huge success? Like, at least someone responding to, even if it is in a negative way?
No, it's a really good point because when she was so thrilled to see that letter, at first I was like, "Is she just being sarcastic?"
Yeah.
But I think the New Yorker has a lot of good credit, right?
Yeah.
Probably back
2007?
in 2007, it was
Yeah.
definitely
Totally
big.
print media in 2007.
Well, back then, but I'm saying today, I'm like, how is a New Yorker? But yeah, print media now, unfortunately, is dying. But I think if anything as big as an outlet like that were to actually read something that you put your heart and mind to and made it controversial, that is, I think, a big goal of a writer. And actually, in anyone, I mean, to be talking about it in general and to get the conversation going is the goal of any creator, whether it be writer. So I think, in my opinion, that's my interpretation of it. Do you have an interpretation of that?
I mean, no, pretty much the same thing. I think that she, is living her dream, more or less.
And I love how she also called her mom, too, about it, and the mom was like, a website?
Oh, that's how they get you. You're going to have to print it off with your own paper.
And it's like kind of like how we're hearing now how everything is digital. It's like, what is this digital world now? No, you should be on television. That's when you really made it. But no, it's switching now from... Obviously, website is still digital, but like I'm talking about this type of media.
It's so interesting. I mean, 2007, 9 years ago. Oh my God! But back then, the internet wasn't as big of big of a part in our lives as it is now.
No,
that's ridiculous.
Isn't it to think? And how I was like 16, so I don't. I think I had a flip phone. I had a Razor phone.
I think it's interesting to think about Diane as kind of a foil to Bojack. As far as their family lives, and because they both kind of have these unsupportive parents. Bojack, obviously, a lot more, to a lot further extent. But you have Diane's parents just who don't get it. Like, I think that was her dad eating chips or whatever he was eating, pork rinds or something, just sitting there.
Big family, by the way.
Right. A couple brothers, it seemed like. And I think there were animals. Were there animals?
No, there was one animal brother or sibling.
Would there be an animal? Oh, I should have...
No. I mean, I think they had
Thank
pets.
you,
but
Zach,
maybe there were animals.
Our producer / engineer for pointing that out. It was a black sheep.
It was a black sheep? Oh, okay. Got it. But yeah, so she has this large kind of family unit that doesn't seem... They're all kind of doing, like, running around throwing a ball, I think, and eating pork rinds. And the mom really seems kind of unreceptive to the idea of this article that they're going to have to print out on their own paper with their own ink and all that. So you kind of get the idea that Bojack and she both come from this place of just kind of misunderstanding, and they're kind of seeking love however they need to find it, you know, and fulfillment in that way. So I think it's really interesting to think about the depression that we see in both of those characters and how they both have to deal in different ways with it, and they have different support systems. You know what I mean?
But don't you think Diane has a little bit more favor in her side because she is married?
She's married, yeah. She has Mr. Peanut Butter, who is a
that,
really positive
it does
influence.
help.
Well, absolutely.
I mean, I know it's all about like finding. Obviously, it's happiness within yourself and focusing on yourself before feeling whole in a relationship. But it adds to it. It makes you feel like there's something worth living for when you know you have someone that relies on you.
I mean, it touched my heart. I think this was in the second season when they talked about their relationship and like moving forward. And he would say like, every single day I sit on this couch, and whenever you pull up,
yes, I remember that.
Like my heart races. I get super excited.
Like a dog would.
Like a dog does. That's so cute.
And then, like, at the end of that conversation, she basically says, okay, so you're okay with me growing and changing and doing all these different things, but you're still going to love me even if you stay the same.
Right.
Yeah, and then that's, oh my God. He just has this unconditional love for her. Unconditional.
You're so right. And they're so opposite, but they're perfect for it. They complement each other really well, as we saw in this episode, the beginnings of how they met. There's just something about Mr. Peanut Butter that Diane, I don't know, just is really attracted towards. I think she loves his zest for life. And she even mentioned to him when we saw him speaking at a John Edwards campaign. What did he say? Like, one of the girls told me about how much John Edwards touched her, and we should all be touched by John Edwards, which was a political reference to him. I didn't really know the history of John Edwards and his, like, he was the governor of North Carolina, I believe, or the mayor of North Carolina.
He was totally that.
But he had like extramarital affairs, so I think it was because they played a pun on they played a reference to Bill Cosby in the last season, so they are not holding back on this one.
Oh no!
But anyway, you see Mr. Peanut Butter speaking at this, and later on she goes to him, not a lot of people would take upon this role, and you just said yes to this, and it's pretty admirable of you. So I think she loves his spunk and his zest for life.
Oh, totally.
So we saw that kind of develop in this episode.
And there's even that moment right after that where he's like, you can't do any, like, if you're going to let people, like, decide for you what you're going to do, you're never going to do anything. And then she's like, that's a beautiful thing. And he's like, I'm so glad you feel that way because I was so worried about what I just said, except then you validated me.
Validated. Validation. But it's so true. We always think like that. Totally. We say something and no one's lying to it. I'm like, shit. Should I have said that? Damn it.
Don't worry about what other people think. But is that cool of me to say? Yeah. Is that a cool thing? Yeah. That's great.
So real, so raw, so human. I love that.
We also in the second episode got to introduce my other favorite character. If we're doing it gendered, then Anna is my favorite female. But this guy is my new favorite male character besides Bojack, obviously. But Cuddly Whiskers.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you guys, Cuddly Whiskers, who's basically like Orson Welles, but a hamster. Oh, he's amazing.
Yeah, I know. He's Jeffrey Wright is the voice of Cuddly Whiskers. I looked that up. Before we get to Cuddly Whiskers, I want to quickly mention Princess Carolyn too.
Oh, and the agent Marv.
Because we see again how much she's been approaching Marv, like, I want to be an agent. He's like, what is this female agent thing?
There's not even a word for that.
Is there even a word for that? Obviously.
Agentress?
Not sexist at all, Marv. No. But Princess Carolyn is
in 2007.
Well,
God damn it.
Yeah, even in today, though, it's still, I mean, we have the first female nominate Democratic, okay, we'll get to that later. Not politics, but we're slowly progressing. She is like so striving to become an agent, and she's doing anything to also kind of help out Bojack, which is nice.
And I mean, we get a sense that she has really good taste because she chooses these movie scripts. What is it? No Country for Old Men, There Will Be Blood.
Which are apparently too long titles for Marv.
Too long. 2 words is the maximum.
It should be blood or there will.
Yep. Throws it upwards into the
shredding fan.
He shreds it with a ceiling fan, which is an amazing having a shredder.
Yeah. And he kind of puts up to the challenge, like, you have to be a really good, not even the best agent could get Bojack the job. She's like, all right, I'm going to try this. So she approaches Bojack Horseman with not 4 locos, but like 16 locos.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. We've all had 4 locos in our lifetime, haven't we?
16 locos.
4 locos.
Yeah.
That brings back college.
Back when those were illegal. Are they illegal? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't even know where they are right now.
I think they got recalled, but then they're back now.
Let
But
us know,
without
guys,
the
find out.
caffeine.
After the apocalypse,
okay.
Yeah,
it's just going to be Four Locos.
Gotta play it safe.
So she gets Bojack drunk, and they visit Cuddly Whiskers in his hamster house.
Oh, his super modern
that
hamster
maze,
house with
so cool.
a dope maze stairs and a pool
So cool.
and all his awards.
Yeah, so he's behind the Krill and Grace, and Bojack loved what he did for Krill people on that show. And we actually saw Jill Pill as well.
Correct.
They have a really interesting relationship.
She has a different last name at this point, Jill something.
Yeah, it's like
else.
a long last name. But they kind of have this, Cuddly Whiskers and Jill have an interesting sexual thing
such
going
an
on.
overt lovers, like, oh, you're such a bad, dirty girl, or whatever.
Yeah, because it started off like a slightly misogynistic, right? And then it was turned into like, ooh, yeah, I'm a dirty girl.
Yeah, it's like, you clean that up. It's like, no, I won't. I'm dirty. It's like, oh, you know you are.
Yeah, that was a little strange.
It's amazing. They just go hard
I don't
for
know
it,
what,
which is great.
Yeah, I don't know whatever happened to like that relationship really, but because she mentions him in the first episode. But I mean, pretty much they want to create a show together, the BoJack Horseman show.
Right. Well, they start. It's talking about. It's like the Mitch's life is what Princess Carolyn shortens it to. But it's like the life and times of Mitch and friends and et cetera, et cetera. But it's this, this new kind of similar to BoJack's Horsing Around show, like family drama or family kind of sitcom-y thing, right?
Right. Exactly. And they have a read-through, and it goes great. And, Bojack was just so hesitant at first because, like we mentioned before, he doesn't know about starting something new. And before the read-through, I love how he gifts Princess Carolyn with a box of, like, crumpled tissue, and that actually excites
really
her.
cute.
Like, don't forget, she's a cat after all.
Yeah, at first I thought it was a joke, and she was like, this is so meaningful. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah. She really loved it.
Right?
Sincerely loved it.
And they have their read-through, and the network executives are just like, they are so gung-ho about the project, and I guess some people don't like that reaction because it's not dark enough. Like, they want... I guess Bojack, when he heard that this will be just like Horsing Around,
Right,
is exactly what he didn't want. He thought that, why would people want to see me as that horse again? So they decided to go darker. Really dark in that writing session they had about shitting on a...
Shitting on the VHS. I'm going to take a dump on this VHS. Yeah.
What were the other things they said? We should have an anti-catchphrase. What's up, bitches?
What's up, bitches? Yeah. Just all of the terrible ideas that they just they have this whole night of kind of punching up this script more or less.
They're like, we'll just keep it in here. We'll change it later.
Yeah, we can change it later if we
don't
want to.
change it.
I just think it's so interesting that in this episode, was trying so hard to move away from Horsing Around, and yet,
Right.
first season, second season, even you get these subtle, references throughout the third.
Yeah.
That's what, he always goes back to that. Remember when he started Secretariat?
Right.
And when he tried being serious, he would play his Horsing Around character, or he would have that kind of tone,
What are you doing here? Yeah, absolutely.
We are running a little bit of time, so don't mind if we're just rushing through this a little bit. I'm sorry, but we pretty much touched upon a lot of the topics. We talked about Todd and Emily as well, so we're going to kind of, hopefully we see Emily reappear. This flashback episode, some people might think, well, why is this already in the second episode of the season? Is this even going to be relevant? I'm sure this will come up again,
Absolutely.
these characters, and even just showing more of Bojack's insecurities and his fears about starting something new. And then we get the premiere. There's a premiere, and Princess Carolyn shows up. She does show us support, even though Bojack completely ditched her. Was like, you're just an agent's assistant, whatever. But she says something to him like, I actually like the horse from Horsing Around. I miss that Bojack.
Yeah,
and that got him
everybody likes
thinking
him.
like, all right, shut this premiere off. I don't want this to happen. But it does. And
That's where we're left off.
that's where we're left off.
Yeah.
He's going to have to deal with the consequences, which is, again, another theme of this whole episode, this whole Bojack Horseman, just dealing with the actions you do and the consequences that come from it and what you choose to do from
Yeah,
that.
Bojack.
That
When you
makes
drink all
human.
night and make a crazy version of a script and then shoot that script and then put that script on television,
Yep.
you gotta deal with what happens.
Yep. Okay, anything else from this episode that were like funny lines? I like how they show the koala-forcation picture on the background and it's reference to Californication.
Yeah.
That was great.
Oh, there are a lot of really great movie posters in the backgrounds.
Yeah, always. Somebody asked, what's a Twitter page?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's wow. I think we
What
said
else?
everything
Yeah.
else.
I wrote down that I really enjoyed when Emily was like, you know how my dad's like in the mob. You know The Sopranos? That's what he does. And then we find out later that that it's The Sopranos. Yeah. It's like, that's what he does. He works on The Sopranos. That's what I meant.
I also liked one scene when Princess Carolyn was driving and she was like, this techno pop song. She was like,
This generic
2011
pop song. Yeah. Everything is auto-tuned. Yeah. It was really funny.
You're good at impressions, by the way, dude.
Oh, no.
That's pretty good. Okay. What about predictions?
Predictions. Well,
AfterBuzz TV predictions.
What is that?
oh my gosh.
What are those?
Well, I would love to say that I think something terrible is going to happen.
Oh, no.
Non-specific, terrible things. I think we're going to get into more of the history of Bojack and Princess Carolyn, which I think is going to be really interesting, and how they kind of got to where they are now, where they're going in the future. I think that's kind of got to be foreshadowing. We kind of see this weird rocky start, so we got to see where that's going to go. And I think Todd also, and you kind of mentioned Todd and Emily, so I think I want to see where Emily comes back up, if she comes back up. But definitely Todd as a character, and especially as a growth. When we saw his hair when he was younger, it's always been blue. But
I know.
Before it was emo blue. So I expect it's going to be a completely different color by the end of the season.
Wow.
That's my prediction.
My predictions. You know what? Just like he said, the history of the characters.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's going to come up a lot. I love Emily, Abby Jacobson.
I know.
Love her absolutely. Let's see. Just expect to laugh. Those are my predictions. I mean, it's a kind of dark show, but it's still funny.
I know, it is. Well, the Oscar race is happening, so I think that it'll be interesting to see Bojack's reaction to him, just the overall journey. I mean, I also kind of would see, we're going to talk about this more in the next episode, but how much of the creator's personal life is intertwined in the show a little bit, and he would say about how he would witness actors and their insanity about winning an Oscar or not winning an Oscar, and he actually kind of hates the process about being ranked. Right. So I think they're going to put a lot of interesting, just like make it a joke, make the whole campaign and the race a joke. So we'll see more of that. I think Bojack is going to revisit his history, whether it's with his parents or with what happened with Penny, but that should definitely come up again. Those are my predictions. I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be dark, I feel, but really funny.
It's going to be
and
so much fun.
I love the show!
I love the show too, you guys.
We love this show, and I hope you guys like our after show. I apologize for being a little fumbly with my names and my words. I promise next week I will be on my game. But thank you guys so much for tuning in to this week's after show of Bojack Horseman. I'm your host, Kanika Lal. Follow me on Twitter at Kanika Lal and Instagram at You Can Have It Lal. And where can they find you guys?
You can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at Robin Genesai.
You can find me on the Twitter at Andrew Mena.
What's a Twitter?
Yeah, not Instagram at the Andrew Mena. Probably written below my face.
Perfect. See you guys next week.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.